again, we want to take the opportunity to tell everyone thank you so much for coming out on this beautiful Saturday. Our next presentation is going to come from the kids from this very school. Mama Cheryl, ready? And here they are. Give them a big round of applause.
Because we have work to do. That's why we're here. That's why we, New Alkebulan Education Center, is here, because we have work to do. We are one of, and I hesitate to say the only because I haven't done my research as well as I should, but as far as I know, we are the only state certified African-centered school, private school, brick and mortar, in Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, possibly the state of Florida, because we recognize we have work to do, and hopefully we will not be the last. Our children are here, they're learning not only who they are, but who they can be. We are an African-centered school. We are a project-based school. Everything we do is centered around them building something. Our motto is creating creators. That is what we're here to do, to create creators. So if you get a chance, you can take a look around the school at the pictures, also in the back at the boats. This semester, our project was called Rock the Boat, and they made boats. And we took them out to the river, and they got in the open water in their boats. So in doing that, they learned about how we traverse the planet first. They learned about how we survive and strive through the Ma'afa, which was our getting here on boats. They learned how we then, through Pan-Africanism, use those same boats to get back home, to trade with our fellow Africans around the globe throughout the diaspora. So they learned something, a lot, they build something, and then they put it into practical use. That is what we're here for, because if we're going to build builders and create creators, they have to start doing it now. Our youngest student just turned 4, and we go up to 8th grade. So that being said, I would like to introduce the students of New Alkebulan Education Center. We are going to get started. Their presentation is called Off to the Races. You'll see why. Just a moment.
A race is a competition. Your race is also what team you're on.
Racism is when you cheat to win.
Menticide is when you forget who you are and begin to think you are on the other team.
Progress is passing the baton to move your people forward by remembering where you came from.
The concept of a white people is a creation. The same is true of black people, of yellow people, of brown people, and of red people. The hierarchy of race that now plagues the whole world is an artificial European invention. Professor Ashley Montague has referred to it as man's great myth. While the hierarchy of race and the concepts around it are artificial, the effects of its creation are real. The application of this concept has affected the lives of most of the people of the world. The European has said or inferred that they were the only people in the world who created anything that used to be called culture, but this has never been true. Civilization and cultural advancements began in Africa. There are 5 geographical regions in Africa.
North Africa,
South Africa,
East Africa,
West Africa, Central Africa. In North Africa, there were boat builders, map makers, traders, and navigators.
In South Africa, there were great military leaders, warriors, musicians, tailors.
in East Africa there were architects, scientists, engineers, and surgeons.
In West Africa, there are astronomers, mathematicians, artists, and iron workers. In Central Africa, there were agriculturalists, herbalists, healers, and jewelers.
Africans were winning. The continent of Africa had the greatest resources. People came to Kemet, Kush, Mali, and Ghana from around the world to learn and trade. Africans made boats and maps and sailed to areas of the world where Europeans would not venture to until over 100 years later. Africans across the continent built pyramids, libraries, temples, and structures that are still marveled at today. Africans came out of the historical starting blocks in the lead. They ventured east and west, trading information, culture, and resources with others. The nations, first the Muslims from the east, then the Europeans from the north, were more interested in taking than trading. They looked upon the wealth and skilled workers of Africa with envy and greed. Europeans were behind, so they decided to redefine the race. Do you want to protect your home from outside invasion? If you do, build a fence or wall around it. The gate will let you into that fence or wall. The five-gate theory seeks to answer the question that people often ask. If Africans were so great, why are they conquered and enslaved? The answer, because they left those five gates open.
North Africa was not always a desert. It once had abundance of food, animals, and resources, but it became a desert. There was a famine, and the migrating people could not defend themselves of invasion. Natural changes in the terrain left this gate open for invaders to come in and conquer African people.
Africa has all the resources humans need to thrive and survive. Africa is rich in fertile land, food, animals, oils, silver, and minerals like gold, diamonds, platinum, and iron. The modern-day cell phone wouldn't work without the tantalum and coltan that could only be found in Africa. Arabs and Europeans saw how rich Africa was and how skilled the people were, so their greed had them steal the resources and kidnap and enslave the people. Not having the foresight to protect against Arab and European greed had to leave the gate open for foreign domination.
People in Africa saw themselves as different groups or nations, not as unified Africans. They may have had a common skin tone, but a different concept of race. They had cultural differences and rightfully saw them as different people. So when Europeans invaded, the different African groups did not band together to fight them. Their diversity and lack of unity left the gate open for those who saw them all as inferior.
Africans converted to foreign religions like Islam and European Christianity. They became so loyal to those foreign religions that they gave up their own belief systems, took on their enemy's belief systems, and began to think like their enemy. In his novel, Things Fall Apart, Chinua Achebe said, when European missionaries came into Africa, they had the Bible and we had the land. They said, let us pray. We closed our eyes. When we opened them, we had the Bible and they had the land. Adopting European religion and their image of God left the gate open for them to take our minds as well as our land.
The worst mistake that Africans made was assuming that others had the same mindset and nature as them. As much as we strive for equality, not all people's nature is the same. Africans live by social systems based on balance, truth, order, justice, and reciprocity. Although Arabs and Europeans did not have the same moral rules as the Africans still welcomed them in, gave them second chances, and even learned to love them. Xenophilia is a love for foreigners, but these foreigners were the enemy. This left the gate open for the Ma'afa.
The experience of the enslaved African was one continual violent attack on the African's body mind. Enslaved men, women, and children were traumatized throughout their lives. And the violent attacks during slavery persisted. Long after emancipation, in the face of these injuries, those traumatized adapted their attitudes and behaviors to simply survive, and these adaptations continue to manifest today. Okay. We live in North America. Our ancestor came from Africa. Our ancestors sailed to North America before the Europeans. What, Rada? Europeans kidnapped our ancestors and took them across the water in boats. Europeans treated our ancestors like slaves. We forgot who we were and started to act like slaves. This is called Ma'afa.
What's Ma'afa mean?
The Great Disaster.
It is estimated over the course of 300 years. It is estimated over the course of 400 years in the late 1400s. In the late 1400s, in the mid 1800s, 156 million Africans were chained together in copper lines and marched across the continent.
Of the 104 million Africans that suffered for months in the dungeons, only 20 to 30 million Africans made it onto the slave ships.
Overcrowded slave ships carried up to 600 African people. Our ancestors were packed into these ships. Each person had a space of 16 inches wide to lie in and couldn't stand up, turn over, or sit up. Our ancestors suffered unimaginable abuse, torture, starvation, and disease for up to 3 months as they crossed the Atlantic Ocean.
Of the 156 million that started, only 12.5 million made it to their destined stops in the Caribbean, North America, and South America.
Many were killed on ship and thrown overboard. Some chose to jump rather than be enslaved.
There's sharks in the water.
Yes, there were sharks in the water, and the sharks saw the discarded bodies as food. So many bodies went into the water during a 300-year plus kidnapping spree. That sharks begin to associate slave ships, feeding and change their migration pattern to follow the boats.
Europeans did not care about the African lives lost as long as they did not lose money. They used the economic law of averages to see their expected profit. They knew that 80 to 90% of the Africans they kidnapped would not make it, so they stole more to profit more.
American slavery was the economic cornerstone on which American wealth and power were built. Wealth and power which last to this day.
Education is said to be the great equalizer, but most of America's famous colleges were founded by slave traders. An endowment is a pool of money that colleges use over and over again. Harvard, Yale, Penn, Columbia, Brown, and Dartmouth all started with money by selling our ancestors.
The clothing industry gets criticized for using modern-day slave labor, but slavery is how many companies in the fashion industry started. Brooks Brothers is now a clothing store where you can buy expensive suits, but it started off selling cheap clothing that our ancestors were forced to wear. Tiffany's is one of the world's largest jewelers, but it started to make money from enslaved Africans picking cotton. Today we spend our money buying European name brands, not knowing that they started off by using our branded ancestors.
Insurance has always been a pathway to generational wealth. You get an insurance policy when you're alive so you can leave tax-free money to your family when you die. The first insurance policies were based on the lives of our ancestors, but the families didn't get the money. The Europeans that claimed ownership are the ones that got the money. New York Life, AIG, and Aetna are the largest insurance companies in the country that started off by collecting insurance policies from the lives of our ancestors.
In the time of slavery, insurance companies paid whites when Africans died, and banks capitalized off of their lives. Colonizers got loans from banks to buy ships and also to buy Africans as slaves. Banks such as Bank of America, Chase, and Wells Fargo counted enslaved people as assets and used them as collateral when given these loans. We spend our time trying to convince whites that Black Lives Matter. But the truth is that they have always known that Africans were valuable, which is why the banks have used our ancestors as money.
The New York Stock Exchange on Wall Street is one of the most largest financial centers in the world. It began as one of the largest slave markets. Money is exchanged there today, but our ancestors were exchanged there in the 1800s. Our ancestors built the wall, which Wall Street is named, and they were sold on auction blocks.
Europeans profited off the life and death of enslaved Africans, but our ancestors throughout the diaspora decided to die fighting so their lives would not be in vain.
Nat Turner Rebellion is the most well-known rebellion in the United States. Nat Turner was born in Virginia and was trained to be a worker and a Christian preacher. This backfired because he began to believe that he was chosen to free Africans from slavery. His revolt was in 1831, and he took the eclipse in 1831 as a sign from God to start the rebellion. Nat Turner and 75 other Africans killed 50 white people, and he was hung. Laws were passed that Africans could not be educated or travel without a pass or a white person present.
Africans resisted enslavement at every point in the Ma'afa. The Igbo people are a group of Africans from Nigeria. They were kidnapped and taken to Georgia in 1803. They fought against their captors and drowned them. They knew that they would never make it back to their homeland and would rather die than be enslaved. Together in chains, they walked in the water and drowned themselves. In Glenn County, Georgia, the Igbo landing site, there is a legend that the Africans flew back home.
Maroons pops up wherever there are enslaved Africans. Maroons are a group of people who ran from enslavement by making a community in the mountains, swamps, marshes, or jungles. Queen Nanny was an African warrior in Jamaica who ran from enslavement. She made a community, went back, and freed 1,000 slaves and took them back to her community. The British tried to attack the Windward Maroons, but they defeated the British.
The Africans in St. Croix also resisted enslavement. In St. Croix, slavery was supposed to be legally over in 1859, but over 20 years later, the people were still being treated like slaves, so they decided to rebel. They killed the white colonizers, burnt down their homes, and burnt over 900 acres of sugarcane farmland that they were forced to work on. This fire-burn rebellion was led by 3 women, 3 queens: Queen Mary, Queen Axeline, and Queen Matilda.
Africans have rebelled and resisted enslavement all over the world, but only one revolt resulted with independence. The Haitian Revolution is the only successful revolution, and the slaves won their independence and became the rulers of the nation. Not only is the Haitian Revolution the only successful revolt, but also hope to end slavery in the Dominican Republic, Mexico, Bolivia, Venezuela, Ethiopia, and yes, even the United States.
In the race of life, Europeans unfairly put themselves in first place. They created a color hierarchy and convinced the world it was science. If you're white, you're all right. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're red, you may be able to get ahead. If you're brown, you can be down. And if you're black, get back. Currently, blacks are behind in the race of life. Dr. Francis Cresswell says that this is because we have failed to understand the game.
Race is a team sport.
It is a relay, and each generation passes the baton to the next.
Racism is when you cheat to win, and racism, white supremacy, is a global system.
That means that racism is all over the world. And shows up in all 10 areas. of people activity.
Economics,
Education, entertainment,
labor,
Law,
Politics,
religion,
gender,
war,
healthcare.
Racism is a local and global power system. The ultimate purpose of this system is to prevent the white genetic annihilation on Earth, a planet in which the overwhelming majority of people are classified as non-white, black, brown, red, yellow. All the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration persisted compared to the genetically recessive white-skinned people.
But what does it mean to be genetically recessive, and what does it have to do with white people cheating throughout history?
let us explain. Traits are passed down from one generation to the next.
Traits are things about you, like your health, your personality, or the things way you look.
race is based on your physical traits, which is your phenotype, or the way you look.
How dark is your skin? How straight your hair is? Things that you can see on the outside.
The traits you get is determined by your parents, and their parents.
This is because our parents mix genes to create your physical body. Genes are a place in your cell where all the information about you is kept, like a library where each individual book is about you inside and out.
Some genes are dominant, some genes are recessive. Dominant means stronger. So even if one of your parents give you a recessive gene, dominant will show up.
When it comes to race, African skin and African features are dominant.
Take a look at the Punnett square. The top row is the father's genes, and the side is the mother's genes. We use M's to represent melanin. Capital M is more dominant African features, and lowercase m is more recessive white skin. The father is black, and the mother is white. Each box represents a child or offspring. Each child gets one allele or gene from each parent. Their genotype will have white, but their phenotype will be more dominant African features. Because African features are more dominant.
And if those children have children with a black person, then their children will have even more black features. And if those children have children with a black person, then the white physical traits will disappear.
So you see, if white people love everyone and combine with everyone, they would eventually disappear.
Especially the Europeans who classify themselves as white, especially since they're only 10% of the population, of the world's population.
Oh, I see. That's why Dr. Francis Cress Welsing says that they have to cheat and set up systems to support white supremacy.
Yeah, they think that's the only way they can win the race.
Africans must regain their lead in the race of life. And make strides in all 10 areas of people activity. Blacks who want to remember who they are.
Blacks who want to get back into their right mind.
Blacks who want to build. Blacks who want to change the game. Black people, Africans who want to win.
Come on in!
But make sure to close the gate behind you.
Moja and Billy Tattoo.
That was my thing.